17-year-old daughter.
Little midweek warm up as we're going to be able to roll the 50s all the way to the weekend, including the chance for perhaps a little weekend snow. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the city of Joplin looks for contingency plans if staff shortages affect services.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Joplin police arrest a man accused of killing his teenage daughter. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Authorities say Todd Mays shot and killed his 17-year-old daughter during a disturbance at their home on Connor Avenue. On Sunday, officers responded to a call about someone being shot and found the 17-year-old. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition and then died Monday morning. Police arrested Mays at the scene. He's charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. Prosecutors charge an Arma, Kansas woman with attempted murder after they say she stabbed a man with a kitchen knife. Kristen Kramer is charged with second-degree attempted murder and aggravated battery. Saturday morning, officers arrived to find a man with multiple stab wounds, apparently from a kitchen knife. He survived. Police arrested Kramer at the scene. A building fire in Miami, Oklahoma created so much smoke it could be seen dozens of miles away. Firefighters responded to calls about the fire Monday morning and found the old boater float building engulfed in flames. 10 minutes after they arrived, the front wall collapsed. The building has been vacant for a while, but a friend of the owner says the power was turned on again last week. And last night, flames could be seen from I-44 from a crash involving 4 trucks. Missouri Highway Patrol says it started when the driver of a Freightliner rear-ended another truck, starting a chain reaction with 2 more trucks. The drivers were from Brooklyn, New York, Chicago, and Kansas City. Authorities reported moderate injuries, but everyone is expected to survive. And a man from Jasper, Missouri died after a fiery crash in Joplin. Police responded to a disturbance call at the library Friday evening. Police say one of the people involved, David Pulsifer, drove away, eventually hitting a pole around 20th and Range Line. The car caught fire. Pulsifer died at the scene. Joplin police are still investigating the crash. The city of Joplin is working on contingency plans if transit services have to be scaled down due to staffing shortages. Officials are considering 4 options. The first would reduce maps from 6 routes per day to 3. A second option would reduce it to 4 routes per day and shorten hours. Another would reduce maps to 3 routes and condense the trolley system to 2 routes. And the fourth option would eliminate the trolley service completely and keep maps at 6 routes per day.
It's difficult to find employees to fill all of our open positions. We've got a lot of opportunities here at the city of Joplin, and so one of the things that we do if we're not able to meet the services or have adequate staffing, we have to make contingency plans.
The city will host 2 public meetings about the proposed plans on January 27th if they are not staffed by then. Well, we've got pretty good winter weather for the most part, but not only for today, but for the rest of the week. Michael Hayslip joins us now with a first look at the forecast.
And we'll get to be talking about winter weather here when we turn to the weekend. But really, Tanya, you're exactly right. For the next 4 days, just absolute perfect mid-January temperatures. Average high this time of year would be 44 degrees. We have already cruised past that by 10 degrees at Joplin Regional Airport, where right now we sit at 54. Now, we have been able to do that thanks in part to a good south wind. And as far as the jet stream goes, thank goodness it's taking that cold Canadian air, dispatching it all the way to the northeast. So we're the recipients of really beautiful, beautiful weather up until Friday. That's the Skywatch Storm Tracker. Nary a cloud, no precipitation to worry about. And trending, I don't think we'll see a huge bump up for the afternoon hours. Pretty much sit in the mid-50s right here. And usually we don't max out till about 3 o'clock. But even though the wind's coming in from the south, it does kind of temper it down a little bit. You know, if the sun were to absolutely just to set in, we'd be close probably to 60 degrees this afternoon, but the wind just takes a little bit out of it. Now, as we look at the 7-day forecast, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive days up into the 50s. So why in the world would we be talking about winter weather and the possibility of snow when we started the show? Well, Tanya, here it is from Friday into Saturday. You'll notice that drops down below the 32-degree mark, not looking at anything severe. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about why we really don't have any worries when winter weather reappears when I see you here in just a little bit.
All right, thanks, Michael. Topping Nation Watch, hello tax season. The IRS will begin accepting 2021 individual income tax returns on January 24th. Administration officials are already warning of a frustrating season as the agency grapples with a backlog of returns from previous years. The IRS commissioner says the agency will do everything possible with the resources available. The tax filing season will end on April 18th this year for most people, rather than the usual deadline of April 15th, because that's when Emancipation Day will be observed in Washington, D.C. Well, coronavirus cases and hospitalizations continue to increase across the area as the Omicron variant takes hold. Officials with Mercy Hospital say they've seen an increase in cases and hospitalizations. However, they're noticing not as many people are needing intensive care services or ventilators. In Newton County, officials say they've seen a significant increase in COVID cases since Christmas and that a bigger increase could be on its way.
So we have seen quite a jump in our positive cases over even last week. So I think in the next few days, in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably see a pretty good surge. I'm guessing, looking at the data. But again, what I'm hearing is it's usually mild cases, and I hope that surge will happen and then subside rather quickly.
We spoke with the Jasper County Health Department director, who says the latest sewer shed samples taken at the end of December show the Omicron variant is present in Joplin and is beginning to show up in Carthage. Along with struggling with an increase in COVID cases and staff shortages, hospitals now face a national blood crisis. Michael George has more details from New York.
The U.S. has set an all-time high for COVID hospitalizations. There are more than 145,000 people hospitalized as of this morning, surpassing the 142,000 record set last January.
Back in my state, hospitals are asking our state leaders to declare a crisis for our medical facilities.
Doctors Rochelle Walensky and Anthony Fauci told senators hospitals are struggling with both the influx of new cases as well as staffing shortages.
Underscoring why it is so important for the unvaccinated to get vaccinated and for those who are already vaccinated to obtain the booster shot.
Hospitals are also dealing with a shortage of blood. Supplies are at such a dangerously low level, the American Red Cross has declared the first ever national blood crisis. Hospitalization rates are also up for children, especially kids younger than 5 who are not yet eligible to be vaccinated.
The children who are in the hospital now are largely those who are unvaccinated.
The American Academy of Pediatrics says more than 580,000 children tested positive for the virus last week, also an all-time high.
Schools having enough testing supplies to stay open is a critical priority for us.
In Chicago, students are expected back in the classroom tomorrow after the city and the teachers union reached a deal allowing individual schools to switch to remote learning if there's a COVID outbreak resulting in teacher absences.
Teaching remotely is 5 times harder for me. I know it's hard on my students, but it's a last-ditch effort to keep the ICU beds open.
More than 5,000 schools across the country have gone virtual since the beginning of the year. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
The World Health Organization warns that half of all people in Europe could be infected with the Omicron variant in the next 6 to 8 weeks. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, the death of Robert Durst and the questions that still remain about those around him who died. Also, we're over at the Mr. Food Test Kitchen for a brown sugar snack cake. Robert Durst, the millionaire who spent half his life as a murder suspect, died at the age of 78. Durst had just started a prison sentence for killing a woman described as his best friend. He was also suspected of killing his wife nearly 40 years ago. Erin Moriarty with more on the mysterious man, as she has covered the Durst case for nearly 2 decades.
Last September, a Los Angeles jury found Robert Durst guilty for the 2000 execution-style killing of Susan Berman. Seen here in failing health, Durst would only live to serve a few months of his life sentence without the possibility of parole. For decades, many believed he used his fortune to dodge justice. He was suspected first of killing his wife, Kathleen, who disappeared in 1982.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance of your wife? No. I don't know where she is. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know how it happened to her.
Durst claimed he last saw her after dropping her off at a train station in suburban New York. Her body was never found, and there was never enough evidence to charge Durst with her murder. 20 years later, he did face charges in another case, the gruesome murder and dismemberment of an elderly neighbor in Galveston, Texas. Durst said he acted in self-defense.
With the jury, find the defendant, Robert Durst, not guilty.
Durst seemed invincible until his own words helped do him in. In HBO's The Jinx in 2015, he made incriminating statements about his wife's disappearance and was caught on a hot mic mumbling what seemed to be a confession.
What the hell is Rachel? Killed them all. Of course.
After Durst's trial for the murder of Susan Berman ended with his conviction last fall, New York authorities hoped to see him finally face trial for his wife's murder. But they and Robert Durst ran out of time. Erin Moriarty, CBS News.
Durst later said he was using methamphetamine during the interviews he conducted with HBO producers. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
If your brown sugar is as hard as a rock, you can either grab a chisel and go to town, or you can stick around as I share with you a kitchen tip and recipe that'll soften your heart.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Keep up these conditions that we have right now over 7th and Rangeline. Mother Nature going to warm us up. We're not going to have to worry about anything that may just drop this weekend. It is absolutely gorgeous outside. Now, technology doesn't always cooperate, but that's okay, because what you do is you walk over to your computer and you tell the old Sky camera, you've had your time. Let's roll with some current conditions. 54 degrees is where we stand right now. We do have a tad bit of a wind chill down to the south right there. Take off about 3-4 degrees is all that it is. Now, Joplin Regional not recording any, but look at that humidity all the way down to 25%. 48 in Oswego, 50 in Monette. Let's roll 51. In both Fort Scott and Nevada, a little bit breezy outside. It's just gradually increased throughout the course of our morning. Gusting right now 30 miles an hour in Joplin. 25 is what we recorded at Martin Johnson Airport in Chanute. And once again, combo the wind, combo the very low humidity, and we're going to have to talk about elevated fire concerns. Nice thing is, though, cold front really is pushed off to the northeastern portion of the United States. Huge warm up in that line right there that takes us all the way from the Canadian border right through the Midwest to the point where our temperatures, because the jet stream taking off to the northeast of us, are actually on par with that of Dallas, Texas, believe it or not. Yeah, we're 1 degree off from what DFW is in the midst of. Later on this afternoon, the wind is going to die down just a little bit as we approach sunset, probably get down to about 10 to 15 miles per hour. And really no worries for the next 3 consecutive days. We'll be able to push up into the 50s. And like I said, let's be thankful that the ground is going to warm the way that it will. Now, each and every morning, too, we're going to see that humidity start at about, say 60, 65%, and then right back down to 25%, which is where we are right now. Here's why we should be thankful about the ground warming up, because by the time we get into Friday, we're going to watch this system just drop straight out of the north, right there. Now watch this thing, it'll turn back into rain as it approaches us. But at the same point in time, early Saturday morning, we could see, let's see if we see any flakes with that. You've got to remember, this is still 72 hours out. But what we'll be looking for is anything that makes its way down here, because the cold front right on top of it is going to take us down below that freezing mark for Friday into Saturday. But this is why this warmth is great. Tanya, the roads are going to be soaking up the sunshine each and every day. Nothing's going to be able to stick. It's going to melt as soon as it gets here. We're going to be in the mood for a little precipitation. And look at that on Sunday. We're right back up into the high 40s. Got to remember, that's exactly where we should be this time of year.
Hey, can't complain about a week of 50s in January, that's for sure.
And even though today a little bit blustery, there's a big difference between 25-mile-an-hour winds and those 40-mile-an-hour winds that we were fighting just a couple weeks ago.
Very true. All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's fourth state hero, Corporal Brandon Callahan, who served in the United States Marines during Operation Desert Fox. He fought in Kuwait as part of the 1st Marines Division. His hometown, Girard, Kansas. We salute Brandon Callahan, our 4th state hero. Instead of discarding what we already have in the kitchen, sometimes there's a way to repurpose it, if you will. So grab that bag of brown sugar or that brick of brown sugar and let's head over to the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
We've all been there. We reach for our brown sugar to make a batch of cookies and it's hard as a rock. Before you have a meltdown, I have a few tricks that'll help save the day. But first, let me tell you why brown sugar gets that way in the first place. You see, what makes brown sugar is that it contains molasses. When the moisture in the molasses evaporates, it becomes hard. To prevent this from happening, you should either store your brown sugar in an airtight container or place a slice of bread in the bottom of a container, which will help keep it moist and soft. If it does become hard, place your brown sugar inside a microwavable bowl with a damp paper towel over it and microwave it for about 20 seconds. Now that you know how to store and soften brown sugar, let me share a brown sugar snack cake recipe with you that is just heavenly. It's one of those cakes that as soon as you try it, you mark the recipe as a family favorite. And since it starts with a handful of pantry basics and is baked in just 30 minutes, it's perfect for an anytime dessert. To get the recipe for what we call our brown sugar snack cake, simply visit our website. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we discovered a brown sugar hack, resulting in a sweet way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
I'm gonna have to try that. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4 state market prices.
Hang on out there. That wind is picking up now, gusting close to 30 miles per hour, 33 in Nevada. Not sure what they're doing in Montgomery County, Tanya and Dow, but I'm not buying that 5-mile-per-hour gust either in Independence. I'm going to say that reading may be just a tad bit off. 7-day forecast right in the 50s with plenty of sunshine all the way up until Friday. Friday evening bringing us a little rain and a cold front for the weekend.
Some sort of major wind block. Maybe.
Right, that'd be nice. Yeah. What do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, a medical first in the operating room as surgeons transplant a genetically modified pig heart into a 57-year-old man, the entire heart. Take a look at this groundbreaking achievement in Health Watch. Plus, Pittsburgh schools' close contact policy is causing a traffic jam and headaches for parents. The school district has only one site parents must use to get their kids tested before they can go back to class. And Chick-fil-A gives back to the community with $125,000 checks to the Washington Family Hope Center. Join us, KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dow. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.